Welcome everybody. If you didn't know, this is OneMicNite, New York City's best and favorite open mic night jam. All right. We're also having dinner here at Cheryl's Global Soul. For those of you who did not come to OneMicNite, I hope you enjoy the music. Tonight I'm bringing you some of the best artists in New York City, right here in Brooklyn. We've got some comedians coming through, some independent artists, so sit back, enjoy. My house band is here every week, holding you down. Please give a warm round of applause for Ruckus. What we do here at OneMicNite is we give the artist a feature. It's like a mini showcase, so you get a taste of what they're about. And hopefully you'll support indie artists around the world. Give it up for the indie artists in the house, please.
My name's Jana, and we had a really great time tonight. We came to check out our friend's band, but we enjoyed every other performance too. Had a really great comedian and some really great bands, and it was a really nice way to unwind on a Tuesday.
Hi everyone, and welcome to OneMicNite, the podcast that brings you stories of artists and people on their journey, helping to guide, answer questions, and motivate you in life and the business. You already know who I am. It's Marcoso-Luis, and I'm back. And I want to thank you guys all for sticking with me for 18 years. I know I say this all the time, but it has been an incredible journey, speaking to incredible people and documenting their lives and hopefully giving you some inspiration along the way. So we're back today, and my guest is no exception to that. He is a Soul Track nominated international charting artist. With his debut album, he generated recognition in UK, in Japan, in Germany, Canada, and he's done much, much more since then. So he's here to talk to us today. Give it up for Will Preston. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hey man, I'm thrilled to be with you. Awesome to be here.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. Listen, absolutely. I have questions.
I have answers.
The question is, who is Will Preston?
Will Preston is multifaceted, I guess. As it pertains to my artistry, I'm a man who loves music. I've always loved music. Just from being a very small child and just always gravitated to music and musical sounds and just appreciation of voice and, just great talent and writing and lyrics and, all of that. So music has always been a very big, solid part of who I am. But beyond that, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a person who loves learning. I love living. I've gone through college and more college and more college. Just feel like I'm somebody who always wants to learn. I'm somebody who always wants to know what's on the other side of something. I never stop pursuing. So, while music has been a very important and big aspect of my life, so have other things such as, empowering the youth or working with others, in enhancing my own education, encouraging others to seek higher education or gaining skills that will really elevate you. So, really my thing is, getting the most out of this life. We only have one. And at the end of the day, I always say, I'm someone who's never bored. I don't know what it's like to be bored. I'm too driven in too many different areas to ever call myself bored. So Will Preston is a man who's on the move, a man who loves his music, but a man who aspires to, just so much in life in general.
I like that. I like all of that. And we're going to come back to that, but I want to back it up just a little bit. Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Originally, I'm from Virginia, so I'm from a small town in Virginia called Bedford, Virginia. It's located outside of Roanoke, Lynchburg, the Charlottesville area.
Hmm.
But I spent a considerable amount of time in Northern Virginia, right outside of DC. So I spent many years there, and so but Virginia is home, and now I reside in Atlanta. But Virginia is where my roots are. That's where my family is, and there's always a special place for Virginia.
Did you grow up in a musical family, or were your parents in the arts some way, or how did the music
Uh,
start to seep in?
There is music sprinkled throughout my family, not necessarily my immediate family, but I have, aunts and cousins and people who sing and are very artistic in the family. Um, but it was just something that music was just always a part of our family and everything we did. Family gatherings, music was a very large part of it. Grew up, obviously in the church. I don't know if it's obvious, but grew up in the
Yeah,
church.
yeah,
So
as most of us do. Yeah, people call.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that was always a very big thing. I was the kid who was captivated by church because of the music. And
Mm.
so I would sit, in my church we had, I want to say probably 4 or 5 different choirs, including the youth choir that me and that I was a part of and my siblings. But on certain Sundays, there's big choir that you want to hear. And so I would sit on the front row, just to hear the
I
choir.
love it.
And
I
then
love that. Yeah,
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 and
yeah.
so then right when they give their last song before before the sermon, and I'd get off the first row and move to the back row. But
Right.
but it's just music has just always pulled me. I can remember also thinking about church and growing up in the church and how some I told you I would leave that front row and go to the back row, but very often I would leave and travel over to another church that I could get to by foot, and because their music was so good, and then I'd rush back to my church before the pastor gave the benediction. But as I got older,
Wow.
I started to appreciate service and sermons more. My pastor was phenomenal, and all I came to really grow an appreciation for that as time went on. But it was the music, man, that really hooked me, and so I've always been attracted to rhythm and to
Mhm.
sounds.
When did you know that music was what you wanted to do? Was it, I mean, it would probably you have probably had an inkling then, but you didn't know that you knew. Because if you were
Yeah,
doing
it's
stuff like that, yeah, it had to be, it
yeah,
was there.
it's those things that when you're young and you're discovering life, and even you're still being shaped into who you are, you don't realize how much a part of your life those things will be. I never knew that I wanted to do music or pursue music. It was really I participated in talent shows and things like that in school, and people would always say, there's something there, you're good, all that kind of stuff. And music teachers would always encourage me. But it really wasn't until I went to college that I even was introduced to a true official music studio. And that honestly got me hooked. And it wasn't so much me singing,
Hmm.
because I'd always been doing that just for myself. So it wasn't that, it was the studio, and it was being fascinated by all the gadgets and the equipment. And I was like, oh my God, this is like another world here. This is like another level. This is like not just me singing, but it's got everything else and so that really is what really honed my focus in on the industry, so to speak. It was really being captivated by the studio.
Who was the person that sort of led you into the studio? Who's the person that was a catalyst for that? Because that's important.
Yeah,
That's the
it was
pivotal point. Hmm.
yeah, I had friends in college. I have a friend named Chad, and he's a musician, and other people. I just remember a friend in college named Latour, and they would hear me sing, and I was a part of the choir at our university, and so people would just encourage me. And so one day I came across somehow, back then I can't even remember. We had MySpace and all that kind of stuff, if you remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I somehow came across these two producers, Gerald Bailey and Larry Bridges, and they had a studio that was located near George Mason University where I went. And so I decided to reach out to them, and I had written, a lot of lyrics and stuff. And I said, I'm going to try this thing. So, and I saw that, and I contacted them, and they invited me over to the studio, and we worked on the project. And from that moment, I was hooked. But it was really other people kind of just pushing me, and then in conjunction with me kind of seeing that there was a studio close by, and it was open to musicians and artists to come in, and I thought, why not? It was so close, and I'm young, and like, let's do it. So that really was the catalyst.
That was a catalyst. I love that because, first of all, probably back at that time, you mentioned MySpace. So that's a certain period where we not only were getting into the business, but we were allowed to and we were shown things outside of singing. That's when, like you said, with your curiosity, you said, well, maybe I can produce. Maybe I can go in the studio and sort of do my own music, or maybe I can. So the possibility of not just singing, like you said,
Yeah,
but other things that go along with it. So that increased the love for music.
absolutely,
Yeah.
for sure.
Let's talk about that first album. When you finally got
Yeah.
music out, what was that like for you and what was the process?
Yeah, so when I recorded the first song when I was in college, that song has never been released yet, although it's a great song. And at that time, I don't know if I was really thinking about doing a project. It just captivated me and hooked me into the inner workings of the studio and the industry. But I started reading a little bit more, and I started to really study people. And there was a guy coming along at the time that I really respected and appreciated his artistry. And I thought, he really is doing the same thing I'm doing. He was about 2 or 3 years ahead of me in terms of, getting his mark in the industry. And that was Eric Roberson. I don't know if you're familiar with him,
Of
but
course. Yeah.
phenomenal artist.
Of
So he
course.
was just over the bridge at Howard University from me, and I was in Northern Virginia. He was in DC, and I just started kind of watching his career and his artistry, and I thought, man, he's doing exactly what I want to do. He's in college, I'm in college, he's doing music. Let me kind of study the blueprint. And so I looked at him, and there was another artist named Gerard Anthony. He was out of Richmond, Virginia. And I just kind of started studying those guys and what they were doing. And it kind of led me on the path to, really thinking about a full-on album. And I had written enough songs. It was just a matter of, gaining the knowledge. And so I grabbed this book, and it was can't remember the exact name of it, but Donald Passman was the author of the book, and he's written like several. It's like everything you need to know about the music industry, and that was my indie Bible, so to speak, and it really set the moment, set the tone, and the pace for me to kind of move forward. So then I connected with a guy named Funky Boy. His name is Bobby, but we talked on the phone. He was out of Waterbury, Connecticut. Oh, I felt so good and so secure in his abilities as a producer. And I linked with him, and we worked on It's My Will. I want to say maybe it took us probably 6 months to record. I was back and forth from Virginia to New York, Connecticut. And it was just wonderful. It was just wonderful recording that album. No expectations, really, man, because I didn't know what to expect. The indie music scene was still really new. Like
Hmm.
I said, we had Eric Roberson, who was really the trendsetter, and he was really the only one who was making real noise. And so while we looked at him as kind of like the godfather, the king of the indie movement, we just all the rest of us just kind of wanted to see what he was doing and see what we could do, but not necessarily on his level. And that just kind of started it for me. And so that project was done, produced, and I released it. And a company out of Detroit, Soul Tracks, who are still some of my biggest supporters, and they have a huge music following. But they got wind of the project and they picked me up, and I think that they did my very first article of many. But they really started me on the indie music scene and really started, my fan base, because it was them. They were a national publication, and it was them that really gave me my first major look.
That's incredible. How important was that having someone behind you as it is now, as we are independent artists now versus then? So I think now a lot of people are putting out music themselves, a lot of people cut out all the middlemen. And I
Yeah,
think Prince was probably the catalyst for that whole scene. When Prince came along, he decided to go against the company, his record label, that kind of started a whole new movement of music and independent artists versus what you're talking about. Because yeah,
yeah.
you need, go ahead, I'll let you speak on it.
Yeah, no, at that time you needed exposure. And I even think now to a great degree you needed what I think was so beneficial for me. back then, looking back, is that that Soul Tracks article and interview and all those things opened the door. And they used to have like Soul Tracks music awards and things of that nature that I went out to and traveled to New York for different things that this guy named Mike Ashley was doing. And he was with Soul Freedom. He's out of the UK. I mean, just different things that I would do with a lot of indie artists, and some major artists were actually infused with those things and meeting a lot of people. But it really helped to not only present me to the world, but I was able to glean and learn from those people that I came in contact with. I was able to have conversations with those people, meeting Eric Roberson or meeting Phil Perry or meeting, all these wonderful people, Gordon Chambers, and all these people that, I was afforded the opportunity to meet. It really helped to build credibility, I guess, in a sense, but also establish a history. So it's like, because of that Soul Tracks article, which is still out there on the web somewhere, 15, 20 years later, it's like now when people look back, they can see a story for Will Preston. Whereas today, I think a lot of especially the newcomers to the indie scene, they want it now and they want it quick. But when you try to dive into it, you don't see a story, or you don't find a history, because they haven't necessarily put in the time for the PR work or to meet with, or to do conversations like you and I are doing. So it's not a lot of depth there. Now, hopefully over time they will establish it. But I think that the avenue and the pathway, some might call it archaic today because we live in a different time, more fast-paced journey. But, for me, it kind of all has really fed into who I've become as an artist. And to me, it has all made a difference along the way.
Amen. Amen. If you don't have the foundation, if you don't have the history, you really have nothing, because nowadays it seems like they're making artists. Like you're a made artist.
Yeah.
You use the voice synthesizer, you use these things, but where's the basis of it all? Where's the learned knowledge of A, the business, and B, the actual craft?
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that with everybody, but I'm just saying,
Yeah, you're right. And you're right. And it's almost today. And what makes it even more scary somewhat is that now you even have AI that can just do things that is just crazy. Some of it I'm sure is going to be used, for good outcomes, but a lot of it is just, whatever. But when I first started, this notion of auto-tune and all these things just wasn't, a thing. And so it's like you have to, if you weren't nailing a note, you did it until you got it. It's like it wasn't anybody maneuvering notes for you. It's like you did it and you kept doing it and you got it right, or you got it on your first take, or you got it on your 80th take, but you had to get it. And if you didn't get it, it's on the record that you didn't get it. It's still there. And so it's like, it wasn't, so things are a lot easier today, I imagine, in that regard. And sometimes it's not really about the talent anymore. When I first started, I really feel like it was about the talent. So my focus was always making sure that, whatever I delivered, I had to make sure that it could stand with the best of them. That if it were head to head, side by side with Eric Roberson or with, anybody else in the industry, Calvin Richardson or any of those guys, that, it would at least be sonically sound and it would be right there on the shelves with their music. And it was carried in the stores with their music. And there was a push for it to be as near perfection as possible. And today, you have artists who will come in and they'll do one or two takes and they're out. And they leave it to the engineer to fix the record.
Right.
Well, that's not what the engineer is really supposed to be doing. But, the engineers have taken on a whole new role today. They become the producer and everything else. It's just a different time.
It's definitely a different time. And what do you say to that? Because a lot of people, just like clothes are fads or fashion, people they rush to it. But in the music industry, that's what's popular right now. People want that. Even today, I was watching one of the popular TV shows here in New York, morning shows in New York, and they have a moment where they do a mixtape. I'm not going to say the name of the company because I want to work for them. So they had a mixtape, and they were highlighting an artist, and they put the artist up, and I was like, man, all I can say is man, because there was no singing. It was all produced and synthesized, and it's a nice little bounce tune, but where's the industry gone?
Well, I'm never one to put a damper on anybody's artistry, because throughout time, you've always had artists who were You've had singers, you've had performers, you've had entertainers, you've had people who were better dancers than singers, but their artistry as a whole was great. I think and a lot of people call that like manufactured pop or whatever the name they ascribed to it at that time. So I never say that, it's wrong.
Right.
But what I'll also say is that, for everybody who says there's no real music anymore, you definitely have to dig deeper, but it's there. You have to dig into the Spotify and the Apple and, find these, non-mainstream artists. You have to really look for if you're looking for indie R&B or indie soul or, that straight up R&B that you love from the 90s, it's out there. The radio might not be giving it to you,
Right. Yeah.
but you just have to look for it. So I don't feel, and I hear like you, I hear these things and, it does, some of it I actually like because
Right.
it's catchy.
Yeah.
But you realize behind it, it's like, they're not the most talented artists,
Right.
but their artistry is big. And so kudos to them because they have found a way to market themselves and to make it. And so that's their thing and that's their livelihood. They're not trying to compete with the quote unquote singers of the world. They're not trying to be in their lane. They found their lane and they're succeeding in their lane. So instead of me getting hung up on that, I really try to stay true to what I do and just try to bring additional awareness. So it's all about, that marketing and that awareness that you can bring to yourself. So instead of worrying about the talent or the lack of talent, I would really be, from my entrepreneurial mind anyway, more concerned with the engine that's moving them because I want to replicate that in my world. I don't want to change my sound. I just want to replicate the engine that's moving them forward. That's all I want to do because that's all it is. Yeah.
Right. So the way that the engine is moving is a little bit different than it was in the past. So we're in a whole different place now.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you a live performer? Do you like performing live?
I love performing live. I love studio and I love live. This is what I always say. The studio is the work of the job. It's where you go in. It's where you clock in. It's where you spend many long hours, many late nights. Sometimes you dread it. I will tell you, I have to be in a creative space to get in the studio. I never have to be in that moment to hit the stage. I love going on stage. It just feels good. It feels natural. You get the anxiety, you get the butterflies. You're supposed to. You should.
Right. You should.
But you're always ready for that. The studio, while I love it, I just have to be in the mood for it. That's just the best way I can describe it. I can go 6 months and I'd want to be in there every day. And then I'll get a lull where it's like 3 months that I don't want to see the equipment. I don't want to touch a Pro Tools board. I don't want to do, anything. But so you have to be in that mood because it is work, because it's more than just standing in front of the microphone and singing. Sometimes it's 10 takes of a line, or it might be 30 takes of a line and you picking out, the best take. So, and so it's a different kind of delivery. But with live performing in the studio also, I'll say this, your focus is on perfecting every single aspect of the song because that is the master. That's what's going out. In the studio, while that's your goal, you want to replicate and you want to be able to deliver on everything that you did in the studio. But it's more about the feel. It's more about the vibe and the connection with the audience and the people who have become loyal to you and even new fans. I mean, it's more about that connection. And it's almost like an appreciation to say, thank you for being with me on this journey. Glad you're here.
Yeah.
Let me show you what I can do. But we're going to have a good time. Y'all not going to just look at me.
That's right.
I'm going to feed off of you. I'm going to give you something you're enjoying, but we're going to work this together kind of thing.
You just said it. You feed off of the live energy.
Yeah.
So you have a live album too, right?
I have a live album that was from 2007. So that was basically off of it was my debut it was the live version of my debut project. So I did the debut project the following year. I recorded one of my live concerts and released that project. Wonderful project, but again, it only focuses on that first debut album. Haven't done another live album since then. I want to, because even looking back, you can imagine I released that first project in 2005. And it will always be something phenomenal and great to me. And I think about it and I listen to me today and I can just see my evolution and see my growth. And I think about, the people who praise that. And I was like, that's wonderful. But look where I am now. Like, look how much I have grown. I can hear it myself. So it's like amazing to me because when you do stuff, you think that you think that you're good at that moment, but
Right.
then
Yeah.
you see your progression over time, and you can hear back. And I'm just like, wow, I've grown not only as a singer, I've grown as a writer, I've grown, just as an artist in general. And so it's just evolving is good. Evolution is a
I
great
love
thing.
that. That's exactly what I was going to
Yeah.
ask you. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to evolve. A lot of times artists fear though that their fans don't evolve with them. Do you ever think about that, or do you think about like when you're in the studio creating, or you're creating or writing music, you think, well, maybe I don't know, or do you kind of take that into
Uh,
account, or do you just continue to just do?
no, and I'll tell you why. Because it's not like I have usher success here.
Yes.
I've attained a great level of success as an indie artist. But I'm not a household name. I'm not there are many people who know me, but I'm not ubiquitous, I guess I should say.
Hmm.
And so I'm not at a point where I feel like anything that I change or anything that I do is going to upset the masses. I think that if anything, what I've noticed with my career is that with every release, I gain more fans, gain more supporters. And so it just lets me know that on the journey, I'm progressing in the right way. And there have been some changes possibly to my sound. In the beginning, I was very safe, and we were very focused on not being branded R&B, because back in those days, I hate to say back in those days, 'cause I'm not
Yeah.
that
No,
old. It
I know
wasn't
what you
that,
mean, though. I know what you mean. We're
but
right
in
here. We're
terms
right
of
here.
but in terms of music, that seems like forever ago.
Right.
They were still labeling artists black artists, and
Hmm.
you had black charts, and you had this, and so it was so focused. The focus for me was really getting away from the stigma of being a black artist. I wanted to be appreciated in more than just the black circle, and not that I feel that I wouldn't have been. It's just that certain people, places, things kind of categorize you by association. And so if you're a black artist,
Hmm.
black man
Hmm.
singing love songs,
Hmm.
they were going to put you as R&B, which R&B at that time was primarily known as a black person's
Right.
music, pretty much. And so I was more safe on the first project, that I wanted to appeal to, not just R&B, but an adult contemporary that had some crossover appeal and all that kind of thing. But I think that naturally, as I transitioned through my journey, who I really am as an artist started to unfold, and you can't run from the soulfulness of who I am. And while I'll do pop songs and I have some pop, my sound is soulful, and so I can't escape that. I don't run from it, and so I've gotten beyond the vanity aspect of saying I don't want to be labeled this, don't want to be labeled that. And at this point, I just put it out there for what it is, and I don't get caught up in the R&B or the pop or the soul neo, because to me, at the end of the day, I just want to deliver great music, and I'll let everybody else decide what category they want to put it in.
Where does the inspiration for the music come from? Because I've heard your music and it's incredible. It
Thank you.
definitely is a thing. So where does
You.
where does all this come from? A lot of times people draw from
Well,
authenticity, and
yeah.
where does
Well,
this
I've
come
lived.
from for you?
I've lived long enough now to
Mhm.
have had experience in the journey of love, and the different emotions that go along with every aspect of love, and even being in long-term love. And so I really try to appeal to certain emotions in love. And so a lot of times what I like to do is, whether it's my journey or whether it's someone else's, we live in a world that we can draw inspiration from anything. We all have family who've been through situations in love, great
Hmm.
times, bad times. We have friends, we see things, we read things. But I try to find something, and something catches my ear. And, like one of my more recent songs, Of Course I Lied, is really a song about, basically someone getting caught in an indiscretion. And, he's like, of course I lied. Did you think I was going to tell you the truth? I mean, I'm getting caught. I'm cheating. I'm doing. But that's a very real emotion, and a very real scenario in love. And so I just try to find the nuances that, and try to find my own angles to kind of approach. And really, at the end of the day, I didn't know how that song was going to be received, but I got so much response of, I've been through that situation. I'm in that situation, or,
Hmm.
thank you for putting words to that, or we can relate to that. So it's just a very real thing. And I believe that you have to give every side of love. You have to give every aspect of that journey because it isn't all roses and kisses and candy. It's not
Right.
like my song "Candy Coated Raindrops" is all about that. So if you want to hear about that, then go listen to my "Candy Coated Raindrops" because I got that too. But that's not what love is. Especially in enduring love, you go through the gamut of almost every emotion possible. Being in a long-term, loving relationship, and sometimes things happen in very short-term relationships. So I just try to write about the different facets of love that we experience as human beings.
And I think you do it exceptionally well. And I hope a
Thank
lot of
you.
more people listen and I'm sure they connect with it because I do.
Thank you.
So yeah, yeah. What what's the thing that drives you the most about music and about being an artist and especially an independent? I don't know if you consider yourself an independent artist still, but
I am.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the thing that drives you the most?
First of all, it's that inner energy. It's
Hmm.
it's the thing that I couldn't stop doing music if I wanted to. Like I could not ever not do music. I'll say it this way: even if I wasn't releasing music, I would still be doing music. I
Mm,
would be in my studio writing, I would be producing, and I would just have an arsenal of songs because I love it so much. And I love the aspect of recording and doing it. I would always do it. So that's my real feel. There's also this thing about people clamoring for more and more R&B, more and more soulful sounds, more and more you
that
know
part.
great lyrics and all that.
Uh-huh.
So I
Uh-huh.
feel like I have a mission. I'm on a mission in some ways to keep that going.
Keep it
I feel
alive.
like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy that even in my small part of the world that I
Hmm.
own in this music thing, there are people who look for that from me. And so that's enough to kind of hold you accountable to keep going. So at some point you realize that it's bigger than just you,
Right.
because there are people who want to hear from you. And I even take it a step further to say it's more than they want to hear from you. Sometimes people need to hear from you because sometimes it's almost like I could probably get in trouble for this, but it's like a ministry. It's like a
Hmm.
ministry.
It is.
Um, and God ordains love. So I stand by that all day long. What I'm doing is writing about love. And that used to bother me also in the beginning, especially coming from the church thinking, you're doing secular music. Well, I'm over that now. But God ordains love and it's wholesome music. And I think that sometimes people need to hear that as an alternative to some of the other stuff that's out there. People need to hear that. They want to find it and I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there for it. So, that's my
I
mission.
like
So that's
that.
kind of also a drive.
I like it. I like it. And I mean, I'd have to say there is sort of a resurgence to that type of music. People are definitely looking to it. I don't, listen to radio, but I know what's on the radio. It's
Yep.
okay. Like we talked about before, some of the music appeals to me. Most of it doesn't because I'm still of that genre of music,
Yep.
and I appreciate your music. What I want to talk just a little bit about the business aspect for you. How has it
Yeah.
been transitioning? And I'm not sure when it happened for you, could have been during the pandemic, but how does it transition into being an entity, a business entity? And this is for all the people that are listening who are thinking about going into the music industry and where, how do you navigate your way to
Yeah.
make yourself an entity and make it work as an independent artist?
Yeah. I think I started the process before I even fully understood the
Hmm.
process. So it's kind of like I grew as a business entity, even as my understanding of it grew, even though I was already doing a lot of the things. I mentioned that I had read a book by Donald Passman, and it really is a foundational book that everyone who strives to operate a record label or just make yourself an entity in this business should read to really understand. And it's I started that so long ago. I founded my own record label. I've released every project through my own label. All of my collaborations, all of that stuff, being a member of performing rights organization, all of those things I've always had in place. So from the business aspect, and it's not as hard as people might think. It just to form your business and to operate as a business, you just have to be disciplined to carry out the certain aspects that need to be done in the very beginning, and just continue to walk through that journey. But I would say probably your bigger question is, or the bigger part for me was not the business because that's solid. It was the brand. How
Mm.
do I establish myself as a brand? And looking at myself more so than just a business. Okay, who is Will Preston? What is the brand? Like the brand almost defines itself, but really having to tap into that, making sure that your marketing, making sure that your presentation in general fits the image that you're trying to convey. So that means, what is your look? What are you going to
Right.
look like when you hit the stage? What
Hmm.
are you going to look like, when you're talking to people, when you're meeting people, when you're giving interviews? What do your press photos look like? All of those things are very, very, very important to helping establish you as a brand. What aspects, because we live in a culture today that people want to know you beyond. It's almost like the music,
Come on, come
even though it's
on.
primary for me,
Yes.
the music is like almost secondary to people. Like they want to know who you are.
Right.
They want to know what you do. They
Yes.
want to see pictures of you throwing frisbee with your dog, or you
Hmm.
cooking in the kitchen, or so they want to know. And so being able to, someone who likes to be private, but realizing that, there's certain aspects of your life that people want to see. And so coming to grips with what aspects do you want to open up to the world, and really becoming an open book to people, and just being genuine. I've always been a person I'm extremely outgoing. Talk to anybody, and so that part has never been hard for me. And so people find me easy to relate to and things of that nature. But really opening up to let people in your life to really learn more about you, and that's what people want. And then they might like your music before, but then they fall in love with your music after they, I guess, get to appreciate you even more as a person.
That's
You become
exactly
relatable.
you just said it. And it goes back to what we said before, authenticity. And so,
Yeah.
even if somebody's looking at your social media, which may be your biggest marketing tool, they're looking to see, who is this guy? We hear his music, and then is it cohesive? It might be subconscious that they're doing that, but like, who is this guy? Let me check out his
Yeah.
his music now. And they're like, yeah, the music matches the person. I like this. So
Yep.
yeah, that's how you continue to grow your brand.
Which
That's
is
exactly it.
new, man.
Yeah,
This is new
it's
because
true.
back in the day, we didn't have to do that.
Right.
We didn't have to do that. Like I said, we had those magazines, we had those people, and they would kind of put us out there and put us,
Hmm.
in the people's faces, and that was it. You know, and we could do a live show or do things, and go to an event, and you gain the respect. But today it's just different.
Completely different. Long gone are the days of like a Hollywood actor and
Yeah.
musician who, they created this image for, and is
Yep.
completely not them. Those
Well, a lot
days.
of those companies don't even exist
Right.
anymore. And if they do exist, they don't have the budget to do that.
Right.
So they're looking for people who have already done it. They're
Yeah,
looking for people who have already generated their success, through social media and all of that. And so at this point, they're just putting their stamp on it to hopefully gain those people more exposures. What the goal is.
that's right. That's right. I see a couple of things on your wall back there. Tell us a little bit about
Oh.
that. You got some streams, you got some
Yeah, so this was actually about that plaque was probably a year and a half or 2 years old now. So 250,000 streams of Never Knew Love. That was off of which project was where do I begin? And so that was a standout song from that project that I was extremely proud of. And so we're probably over, I don't know, we're probably 300,000-400,000 streams by now. Be nice to get it to five. Be nice to get to 1 million. So
Let's see
I
what we
haven't
can do,
gotten there yet.
guys. Let's see what we can
Yeah,
do.
that's right. This black one here is my very first project. That's the It's My Will project. And so if you're looking for that out there, you can recognize it by the black. But that had my song "It's My Will." I had a song called "Second Chance," a song "We Should Have Stayed Together." A lot of great songs in there. Again, that was foundation for me. That's where it all
I love
began.
it.
Up
Love
at
it.
the top where you see the red, that's "Reacquainted." That was a project that came after the live project. Then some articles, things of that nature, and some other stuff on the wall here. But it's been a journey. It's
It
been a
sure
wonderful
has.
journey. And so, those things are, as much as I walk in the studio and I see those and it's so gratifying, it's all humbling at the same time, because it's like, that's special. And it's to be honored, and it's to by me, and it's for me to recognize, it wasn't always easy, but
Right.
it was a journey to release these things. And sometimes in and of a release in and of itself is a monumental task and journey. That first project took money, took
Yeah.
resources. It
Yeah.
took that at that young stage in my career was like, wow, I'm really going to do this. I'm going to spend this kind of money, and I'm going what because of why, But I did it, and I'm so glad that I did it. I'm so glad that the consistency has just always been there with me, and I've just always had this drive, from day one, that I was just going to keep. If I'm going to do it, I'm just going to consistently do it, and that's just going to be me. I'm just going to keep doing it.
That's right. That's right. What are you looking forward to for the future?
Oh, I'm looking forward to a lot. I'm working on new music now, so obviously, I'm always excited about that. I have recently announced that I'm launching my own clothing line, and it's
Yes,
called My
sir.
Best Interest Apparel.
All right.
My best interest apparel will be dropping in the fall, so I'm very excited about that, and it will eventually be a full-fledged clothing line. Is my goal. We're going to start with a first line of I call it like upscale casual wear, stuff that you can wear to go out get a drink, but not just throwing on a sweatshirt or whatever. We're
Mhm.
gonna put on a sweatshirt. We're gonna make it nice. It's gonna have some nice finishing touches. It's gonna be good quality, and that really. And I'll tell you how from that first line how the thought came about is because I love a nice hoodie. I love nice shirts and nice sweatshirts. And
Mhm.
Boss is one of my favorite brands, and Psycho Bunny. And so I love to wear this stuff because the quality is so good and so nice. Um, and so those are my choices most of the time for certain things. But I love to support independent fashion designers. I love to support people who are really trying to get their footing and get their come up in the fashion world as well. And so I always support. But what I notice is that when I buy, I'm happy to support, but sometimes I'm paying premium pricing to support these artists or these people who are, independent and just starting in their fashion journey. But the quality is just not there.
Right.
The quality is just not good. And I always say, this is where people get it wrong because it even goes back to my music because I always said from day one, it's got to look like a major label artist product.
Right. Yep.
Because what will happen is if it doesn't look and sound like the product, I might catch them for a minute. They might get that first project.
Mhm.
But if it was garbage, if the sound quality wasn't good, if the booklet wasn't good, if the jewel case was, they're not coming back
That's
to me in the
right.
future.
That's
And
right.
so I feel that same way about these clothing entities where, maybe I'll be a little more forgiving and I could give them another shot. But my first experience wasn't great. And so I said, what do I do for people like me who want to support, people outside of the mainstream world, out of the high-end designers and the mass designers? I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it with quality. I'm going to do it the same way they do it. And when I tell you, I did, and I'm excited. I'm excited about it because I know that it's good quality, and I'm praying that it'll be a success and that it will catch on with people. But I'm really excited about that. My best interest line
I
launching in
like
the
that.
fall.
And you got to stand by it too. If you're putting out the
Yeah,
quality, make the price point and stand by it.
yeah,
And the people will realize that it's quality and it's worth the money.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it. That is
That's the
it.
thing.
That's the,
Sometimes
right.
making our people realize,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
but
it.
they will. Yeah.
I love that. So I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do it if you want to. You don't. This might be a One Mic Night artist session. If you want to bust a few lines from one of your songs,
Uh-oh.
you can do it
Uh,
and give the people a little something,
Anything?
anything you like.
All right, let's go. Yeah, it's kind of early.
I know. I'm sorry. If you don't want to
um,
do it, it's cool.
no, I'm fine.
All right.
Candy coated raindrops are falling from my eye. I can't believe the love we share is making me cry. But those candy coated raindrops are falling from my eye. There's no pain or sorrow that I feel, but it's for you that I cry.
All right. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
That's a
Sounds
little
like
something.
butter. Sounds like butter. Thank you for that. Let everybody know how we can
Absolutely.
get in touch with you and the Peril line too, if you have Instagram or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm on
Right.
Instagram, the Will Preston. The Will Preston also on let me see. Instagram, what we got? TikTok is the Will Preston, that's YEP. TheWillPreston. YouTube, V Will Preston. My website, willpreston.com. Spotify, and anywhere you can find music, you can find me and connect with me. I love to interact and respond and talk and engage, and so I'm excited to anybody who wants to become a part of this journey, and I regard you as a link in this chain of success, and I'm just very grateful for the opportunity.
Well, man, thank you very much for coming to the show. Everybody, please make sure you follow at The Will Preston. That's on IG and X. Check out the visualizers on YouTube. He's on, what is it again on YouTube? It's Will Preston.
It's actually The Will Preston.
The Will Preston.
It's The Will Preston. The same as it is on IG. Yep.
Okay. Well, you can find all the information on his website, willpreston.com. Thank you for coming to the show. Please come back anytime. It's a pleasure having you. My name is Marcoso-Luis. You can find me on IG at Marcosluis. Also, the show is OneMicNite, OneMicNite. Join the Facebook community. Drop your flyers, drop your visualizers on the OneMicNite page if you want to on Facebook. We stream live every Monday night. New episode, OneMicNite. We're in season 5, 18 years. Thank you very much. Talk Live Pod. I'm Marcoso-Luis. We'll see you next time. Bye.